For decades, it was the cornerstone of the American dream. A house, a plot of land, your own patch of earth, symbolized as stability, a place to build a life. But somewhere along the way, that dream, it got complicated, didn't it? And it got complicated fast. Over the last 4 years, we've seen prices surge, then interest rates to follow. It felt like the entire housing market was playing tricks on us, a cruel joke, daring you to even think about buying. And for most Americans, it was financially crushing. Now, we're standing at the cusp of 2025, and it's on everyone's mind. Probably yours, and if it's not, it probably will be soon. Is this the year? Is 2026 the year? Should we buy a house in 2025? Should we buy a house in 2026? Is this the time of the year to buy? Is this a good year to buy a house? Or are we still stuck in this insane cycle? To understand where we're going, we need a super quick refresher on where we've been. Remember 2020? Interest rates dropped dramatically. Historic lows. That was COVID, that was the pandemic. Things in the economy needed to be stimulated in order to get the juices going. Everyone wanted more space. Remote work meant you could live anywhere. Demand exploded. But here's the kicker. We weren't building enough houses. Supply chains broke. Labor was scarce. So simple economics. The demand was high. Supply was low. So what needs to happen? Prices need to rise. And that they did. Prices went through the roof. For a couple years, if you could even find a house, you were in a bidding war that felt like a gladiatorial combat. Then the Fed stepped in. To fight inflation, they cranked up interest rates, right? Suddenly, that low rate dream mortgage was a distant memory. The cost of borrowing shot up, making those sky-high home prices even less affordable. We got screwed. High prices, high interest, buying power just suddenly plummeted. All right, so that was the past. Let's talk about 2025 and 2026 and what the big players, the economists, the big real estate giants, what everyone's actually saying. The general consensus is it's complicated. Zillow, for example, is a bit bearish, predicting a slight dip in home values, right? Maybe around 1% to 2%. But then you have the heavyweights like Morgan Stanley, Fannie Mae predicting modest growth, maybe 2 to 3%. Now, what does that tell us? No one is predicting a massive housing market crash like in 2008. The market is more likely heading towards stabilization. Prices aren't expected to explode upwards, but they're also not expected to plummet either. And there's some genuinely good news. Inventory is finally starting to tick up. We're seeing more and more active listings, not pre-pandemic levels, not yet, but it means more choices for you, less frantic bidding, and more breathing room. This means something crucial. Negotiating power is returning to buyers. Sellers are no longer holding all the cards. You might actually be able to ask for concessions or even a slight price reduction, and I've seen it happen in the Colorado market. Remember those days? They're slowly coming back. I remember buying our first house. Every house we walked in, this was back in 2018 and 2017. Every house we walked in, we had to basically decide at that moment, the first time we saw the house, we had to decide whether this was a house we were going to buy or not. We had to decide at that moment, that day. And man, what a war zone that was. How frustrating. You go through these, you look at these houses, you look at them, you have to decide that moment if you want to buy it or not, only to lose out to the bidding war because, people got more money than we do. Those times are slowly fading away. Okay, now for the elephant in the room, the interest rates. While the Fed has started cutting rates, don't expect 3% mortgages in 2025 or 2026. Most experts are predicting that rates will hover in the mid 6% range for much of the year, probably from much of next year. This is still a major hurdle, obviously. I mean, a 6.5% rate on a $400,000 loan is significantly more expensive per month than the 3% rates. This means that affordability continues to be a massive challenge. Your monthly budget will be stretched. Your buying power will be lower. This also creates kind of a golden handcuff situation. Like, many existing homeowners are sitting on extra low mortgage rates from a few years ago. They don't want to sell their current home because of the low rates. They don't want to buy another home because the interest rates are so high. And this keeps some potential inventory off the market. I mean, this makes sense, right? If you have a 2.5% rate, it's going to be hard to want to leave that to go get a 6.5% rate. So, while prices aren't skyrocketing, the cost of borrowing still makes the total cost of ownership incredibly high. And here's where national headlines can be incredibly misleading. There isn't one American housing market. There are hundreds. And in the current market, your specific locations matter more than ever. Areas that saw massive population booms and price surges during the pandemic, think like parts of Sunbelt like Florida, Texas, Arizona, are generally seeing more inventory come online and some actual price adjustments. They might be cooling off more significantly. But then you look at places like the Northeast or much of the Midwest, inventory is still tight. Prices are more stable, perhaps even seeing continued, albeit slow growth. It's still pretty competitive. So my general point is, what you hear in the news, on the headlines, when they talk about the real estate market, it might not apply to your neighborhood, to your region. Just take what they say with a grain of salt, because there is the markets, and then there's hundreds of different small regions and what's going on locally. That is what's more important to pay attention to. You need to become an expert on your local market. What's inventory looking like? How long is it staying on the market? What are prices looking like? Are they falling? Are houses closing for less than listed price? Are they closing for higher than listed price? All those things. You need to become aware of what's going on in your market if you're looking to buy a house. Buying a house is still a financial tightrope walk. This brings up a huge question that we often overlook, and that is, what about renting? For years, renting was seen as throwing money away, right? But in 2025, this is not true. Renting might be the actual smartest move right now. And by the way, I really get frustrated when people say renting is throwing your money away. It's not. You're getting a place to live for the money that you're paying. You're not just throwing it away. There's a lot of value in renting. There's also, remember, when you consider renting, typically your maintenance issues are taken care of. Your lawn care is taken care of. All that stuff is taken care of, right? HOAs, you don't have to pay property taxes. When you buy a house, you have to furnish it. You have to take care of the landscaping. If you buy a new house, you might have to set up a new landscape in the backyard. All the maintenance issues, that's your responsibility. You have to pay insurance and taxes on top of mortgage. It starts to add up. But why is renting such a good idea right now? Well, the rental market is just a different beast. A huge number of new apartment buildings have been built over the last few years. That means supply is up, right? Supply is up. There's actual supply here. But the demand has not increased like the house purchase market. That means landlords are competing for tenants. That means prices are actually competitive. Rent growth has slowed down dramatically. In major cities, rents are actually falling. Landlords are offering concessions, things like free month's rents or waived amenities fees, just to get people in the door. And the power has shifted in many places from the landlord to the renter. Next, let's talk about the math. When mortgage rates are this high, the financial gap between renting and buying is huge. In most major U.S. markets today, the monthly cost of renting a typical home is significantly cheaper than the monthly cost of owning one. That difference could be hundreds or even thousands of dollars a month. That extra cash isn't being thrown away. It could be used to boost your savings, invest in the market, pay down debt, get an education, anything. Just don't spend it on dumb shit. Renting gives you a financial flexibility that and predictability that home ownership with the surprise repairs and fluctuating taxes just can't offer. It's not a waiting room, it's a strategy. So after all this, is right now the time to buy? Well, here's how to figure it out. Here's what you need to do. First thing you need to make sure to do is make sure your own finances are in order. Forget about the housing market. How are your finances? How's your credit score? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have income that can support your mortgage, insurance, taxes, plus all your other monthly expenses, your bills, your utilities, your food, your car payment, all that stuff? Then do you have money for a down payment? Because the more down payment you have, the lower your monthly costs will be. Although you are locking away money in your house, right? But a down payment can help you just mitigate the monthly expenses. If these things are not locked down, no matter how the market is doing, it's just not your year. You should take care of these things first. Next, you want to get pre-approved. If all those things are in order, get pre-approved. Don't just get pre-qualified. A pre-approval from a lender is a much stronger signal to sellers that and it shows them that you're a serious buyer. It also tells you exactly how much you can borrow. So you already, you don't have to play the guessing game. You come in the market with a budget, exactly what you can afford. This can give you some wiggle room too for negotiating. Next, you want to shop around for lenders. Don't just go with the first bank that you run across. Don't go with your default bank. Look into brokers, look into different banks around, look for recommendations. If you have a realtor, see who they would recommend to be a good mortgage lender. Shop around, make sure that you're getting the best deal that you can. And make sure you work with a good one, because I've seen lenders really ruin deals and closings because of their nonsense and their requests. This is where your financial savviness truly pays off. Be realistic and patient. You might not get every single thing on your wish list in a house. The market is better, but it's not a free-for-all. Be prepared for trade-offs. If you don't find the perfect house, be patient. The market isn't likely a runaway in 2025. Consider a rates and term finance strategy. If rates are still high for you in 2025, but you find your dream home, don't despair. You can buy the house now, and if rates drop, you can always refinance later. Just remember, people, they usually say you just date the rates. It doesn't have to be forever. Interest rates are high now, but if they ever drop, you just refinance. So, is 2025 the year? For many, it will be the year. They finally take the plunge. For others, it'll be the year they get the ducks in a row. If not, look at 26. 25 is almost over. But make it, if you plan on buying a house, if you want to buy a house, just make sure you start with your own finances. Don't get so excited about the market and what things are doing with interest rates. The time to start planning is before all that. Making sure you have a down payment, making sure you have enough income to support what you need to support. Make sure your credit score is in check. Get all those things in line first before even thinking about buying a house. Don't let the headlines scare you. Don't let the FOMO get too far in your head. Understand your trends. Understand your local markets, where you live, where you're trying to buy a house. Understand that stuff. Don't worry about the headlines and what they're saying about the housing market. Worry about you and your area. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.